I'd like to call the April 4th Onslow County Board of Commissioner meeting to order. And our first order of business is the invocation by Ms. Sharon Griffin, our county manager. It's all yours, Sharon.
Thank you, and good morning, Chairman Brighton, Commissioners. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come before you and conduct the business of Onslow County. Please bless all those who have gathered here this evening. Father, we pray for our military, our first responders, our frontline workers who continue to serve our country with tremendous courage. Today, we ask a special blessing on our telecommunicators, who we are honoring here today for their dedication to our citizens during their most critical times of need. May all we do this day bring you honor and glory. Now, with deep respect and reverence for the faiths, beliefs, and traditions of those gathered here today, join me in a moment of silence. Amen.
Our pledge by Sherry Slater, our Assistant County Manager. Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the elected officials here today. Sheriff Hans Miller, thank you, sir, for being here. Colonel Thomas, thank you, sir, for being here. We have Alderman Grant from North Topsail Beach, thank you for being here, and our own Omega Jarman, Register of Deeds. Thank you all for being here today. We ask that all in attendance please set your cell phone to silent or vibrate mode. The board offers the public one opportunity to speak during the meeting. Comments should be limited to no more than 5 minutes and may be on any issue upon which the Board of Commissioners has control of. In accordance with the board's adopted rules of procedures, commissioners shall reserve responses, if any, for the commissioner comment period on the agenda, which that'll be at the end of the meeting as far as the commissioners go. With no other items to be considered, I'd like to have a motion to adopt the meeting agenda.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Approval of the items on the consent agenda. Is any item on the consent agenda that any commissioner would like to have removed for discussion later?
Motion to approve. Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. The consent agenda is hereby adopted. We are at item 3. Ms. Griffin, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have 3 citizens that are signed up for public comment this morning. And before I call these speakers up, let me remind those who have signed up that each citizen speaker will be acknowledged in the order in which they have signed up. We do ask for you to come up to the podium, repeat your name and your address. Please address your comments to the board as a whole and not to any one commissioner. We do not permit any profanity. We do not permit any discussion between the speaker and members of the audience or any sharing of your 5 minutes. You do have exactly 5 minutes in which to speak, and we ask that you excuse yourself at the end of the 5-minute time limit. At this time, I'm happy to welcome Mr. Dwight Houston to come up to the podium.
My name is Dwight Houston. I live at 388 Calvin Town Road, Richlands. First, I want to say I thank the commissioners that let me speak to them today. I'm here because I'm concerned about the closing of the container sites. Even though I'm concerned about the closing of the trash dumps, I'm more concerned about closing the recycle containers. Recycling is very important to me to preserve our natural resources, because when they are gone, they're gone. North Carolina has a statute on recycling, but it shouldn't become a burden or extra expense to do so. Paying for trash removal is one thing, but I don't believe we should have to pay for recycling. My understanding is that commercial trash companies charge extra to pick up the recycled stuff. By closing the container sites down means recycled materials will go into the trash and can fill up the landfills quicker and losing our valuable resources. Another concern to me is I'm afraid by closing these trash containers down, sites down, you're gonna find more trash on the road, and God knows we see that enough of that already. Also, I'm afraid you're gonna see more illegal dumping on private property, where the property owner will be responsible for cleaning up someone else's trash at our expense. Another point I'd like to make is if you're going to close some of the container sites down, you should close all of them down to save money. By leaving certain sites open, you're providing a service for those citizens while you're not providing the same service for the citizens that you're closing sites down. My proposal to the board today is that you open these sites up one day a month when most people are off from work. Then I believe you will make a profit from that. I suggest that you try this for 6 months. If it doesn't work, then close all the sites down. I believe not only it's the right thing to do, but the Christian thing to do to preserve our natural resources. You know, sometimes it's better to help people and not worry about the dollar and cents. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Houston. Our next speaker is Mr. Bert Hall.
I'm Bert Hall. I live on Huffmantown Road and grew up there, and my family has always been a part of that community. I appreciate very much you're giving me the opportunity to express my thoughts concerning the pickup site for the garbage. It is a very, it's an essential part to our continuing to maintain a desirable community. We were able to keep trash from being stacked beside the road or thrown beside the road. And it enables my neighbors, as well as myself, the opportunity to dispose of their garbage in a suitable way, in a way that is in a way that's sanitary and it's just it's a necessity for us to be able to do that. Again, we live in a very desirable community. Our people are friends and neighbors, and we like to provide a service that is in keeping with our community. I understand, I think very fully, the problems that commissioners have every meeting. There's things that hard decisions to make, and sort of thing. But I ask you to consider whatever it takes, keep our our pickup site open. I don't know under what conditions you may be able to do that, but I'm sure our community would work with you in making that happen. And I thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Our final speaker during public comment today is Mr. Jack Humphrey.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished commissioners, my name is Jack Humphrey. I'm a lifelong resident of Richlands. I live 135 Kinston Highway. I have been a big fan. First of all, I want to talk trash to you. I'm a big fan of the recycle. And I'm not going to say closing the Cabinet Town site would be an inconvenience because that sounds kind of selfish. But I worry about what we will go back to once we close these sites down. The trash thrown in the woods and places like that. I recycle about 90 to 95% of my waste. So that lessens greatly what waste I have to dispose of. I just want to make a plea to keep at least as many of them as you can of them, but particularly Cabinet Town. I've looked at going to Ramsey Road, which would be a nightmare. We had traffic on Gun Branch Road. I've looked at going to the main site at Pony Farm Road. That'd be quite a different travel load to carry them. But anything you can do to maintain. The site itself, from what I've seen, is pretty self-sufficient. It does not require maintenance as far as the facility. Once it's set up, it's pretty self-contained. And if you find it in your business dealings to keep it open, I would appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. Chairman Bright, that concludes our public comment.
Okay, thank you. As a note, we do have that on the agenda for discussion later on, so we'll be debating and discussing that item later on if any of you want to stick around and find out what happens with that. Next item is presentations, and I'll turn that over to Ms. Griffin to do the presentations.
Thank you so much, Chairman Bright and Commissioners. We have 3 proclamations today that we'll present, and our first one recognizes Public Health Week, and I will start us out by reading it into the record. State of North Carolina, County of Onslow, National Public Health Week, April 4th through 10th, 2022. Whereas National Public Health Week has increased significance this year as our nation mourns the loss of more than 500,000 lives to COVID-19. And as we come to recognize just how essential our public health efforts and public health workers truly are, and whereas Onslow County public health programs and services benefit all Onslow County residents regardless of race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status, and whereas Onslow County public health programs help prevent disease and disability through services that improve infant mortality rates and childhood immunization rates, promote child and adolescent health, prevent teen pregnancies and obesity rates. And whereas the Onslow County Public Health Department educates and encourages residents to adopt healthy behaviors, helps them attain a healthier lifestyle, and prevents chronic illness and premature death through such programs as diabetes and chronic disease education and wellness promotion in the workplace. And whereas National Public Health Week provides the focused opportunity for the public and public health professionals to learn about Onslow County public health and success stories which are vital to healthy communities, such as immunizing against infectious disease, maintaining good nutritional standards, and providing good prenatal care. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Onslow County Board of Commissioners declares April 4th through April 10th, 2022 as National Public Health Week and encourages the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities presented the 4th day of April 2022 by the Onslow County Board of Commissioners. And I believe Chairman has requested that Commissioner Scott present this, and today we have with us members of the Onslow County Health Department to accept this proclamation.
All right, now, good morning. It's great to see a crowd to come to take this award. It really is. The National Public Health Week was established in 1955. This year's theme is Public Health is Where It Is, or is where you are, excuse me. Public health is extremely important. Every elected official, every school official, every teacher, or anybody else has the responsibility that's put upon its citizens to assist in this endeavor. The health department has a huge responsibility, and they provide the service to assist you in any way that they can. COVID-19 has brought out some issues that we did not look at as a community in the past, but the mental illness, the disabilities, and the things that we face together as a community, we are striving to do better. It's probably going to take us 5 to 7 to 10 years to get what happened in COVID behind us. But working together, being together, and having the input, we can accomplish this goal. And I want to thank the health department on what they've been doing, what they're going to do. So on behalf of the commissioners, I'd like to present you with this plaque.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So we're so grateful from the support that we get from our county's administration and from our Board of Health, that is our Board of Commissioners in Onslow County. As Commissioner Scott told us, this theme for this year is Public Health is Where You Are. We know that that your health is influenced by where you live, where you work, where you learn, play, and pray. And we also know that community health improves when we have a strong public health department and a strong public health workforce. At Onslow County Health Department, we have about 115 employees that provide a diverse array of services, and I've got a handful of them with us here today. Last year, we served over 25,000 individuals in our personal and family health service programs, and our environmental health specialists performed over 2,500 inspections and visits at different sites or facilities. And so there is a lot of work that goes on in public health. Even if you've never walked through the doors of the health department, your life has likely been touched by the services that we provide, and we appreciate the recognition and thank you for the support that you offer us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you so much to our fabulous health department. We appreciate all of you. Our next proclamation is in recognition of Child Abuse Prevention Month, and I will read it into the record. State of North Carolina, County of Onslow, proclamation, Child Abuse Prevention Month 2022. Whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes they need to foster their healthy growth and development, and our children are our most valuable resource. And whereas child abuse and neglect is a serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and during 2021, Child Protective Services social workers assessed 3,016 reports of child abuse, neglect, and dependency in Onslow County. And whereas child abuse and neglect can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims. And whereas preventing child abuse and neglect must be a high priority that requires individuals, families, child-serving organizations, schools, faith-based groups, businesses, governmental agencies, and civic leaders to support safety and the physical, emotional, social, and educational well-being of children. And whereas promoting child abuse prevention programs that focus on family functioning and resiliency, knowledge of parenting and child development, social support systems and connections, parental resilience, and concrete supports help to prevent child maltreatment and strengthen families. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Onslow County Board of Commissioners recognizes April 2022 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and encourages all citizens to dedicate themselves to protecting the quality of life for each and every child. We call upon citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, and thereby strengthening the community in which we live. Presented on the 4th day of April 2022, and Chairman Bright has requested that Commissioner Bennett present this, and Carrie Sanders and members of our fabulous Department of Social Services team are here to accept.
Abuse and neglect reported in Onslow County. This is certainly a time that we need to remember and be aware of what is going on in our community, and we need everyone to support you guys who do the hard work investigating these cases, and to report any cases that you're aware of or child abuse and neglect. Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you for recognizing April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. The theme of this month is Be the Connection, which really references the importance of children having strong, supportive, and loving connections throughout their childhood to be successful. Child abuse and neglect is a community issue. It is a community problem. But together with our child welfare social workers, our community partners, and all citizens of Onslow County, we can continue to have an impact on reducing child abuse and neglect. And I would like to recognize all of our child welfare social workers who not only take the reports, investigate abuse and neglect, and intervene with families to improve the safety, permanence, and well-being of children. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our social workers. Our final proclamation today is in recognition of another very important group of folks who are here, many of whom are here with us today, and that's National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. State of North Carolina, County of Onslow proclamation, National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of law enforcement officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our first responders is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who call the Onslow County Communications Center, and whereas the skilled public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services and are a vital link for our first responders by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas telecommunicators of the Onslow County Emergency Services Department have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, the suppression of fires, and the treatment of patients. And whereas emergencies can strike at any time, and we rely on the vigilance and preparedness of these individuals 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Onslow County Board of Commissioners declares the week of April 10th, 2022 through April 16th, 2022 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Onslow County in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our community and citizens safe. Presented the 4th day of April 2022, and I believe Chairman Bright has asked Vice Chairman Foster to make this presentation, and we have Onslow County Emergency Services Director Norman Bryson and our Telecommunicator Division Head Ray Silence, who have come forward.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. It is an honor to present this proclamation today for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. When you dial 911, it's always great to have a calming voice on the other end with the knowledge and expertise to make sure they get the information necessary to the responders coming to your business or to your home. Just a few weeks ago, our family had to dial 911. I don't know who was on the other end of the line, but I sure do appreciate whoever it was that answered that phone call, because within 7 minutes, the rescue squad or ambulance showed up at the house, and our family member was transported to New Hanover by helicopter, and that life was saved. and we appreciate your efforts because it's always reassuring to the person making the call that the individual on the other line has compassion, knowledge, and that calming ability when folks are in the worst situation that they ever thought they'd find themselves in. So thank you very much, and we appreciate all that you do and all the lives that you save.
Thanks,
Mr. Silence.
Thank you.
First and foremost, I would like to thank the Board of Commissioners for recognizing our telecommunicators and for all that they do. It is very important that we do spend some time and recognize them because a lot of times on the other end of the line, they don't necessarily hear the thank you that they need for what they do. In 2021, 176,000 phone calls was made to Onslow County's 911 center, and that was 5,000 more calls than what was made in the previous year. Of that, 139,000 times were those calls turned into dispatches where we sent fire departments, law enforcement, EMS out to our citizens. These folks that we have that are recognizing here today and those that are back in the 911 center currently, they spend their time, they are help provide CPR instructions, choking instructions. They also give instructions on birthing of children, which is some of the presentation that we will see here in a few minutes in recognition of that. But they're also counselors for when people are going through crisis. They are also the lifeline to our firefighters, EMS, and law enforcement when they needed help and assistance. We could not do the job that we do without them, and I greatly appreciate for what they do. Thank you.
Good morning. Just to add a little bit what Mr. Bryson was saying, I'd like to thank the chairman and the county commissioners for allowing us to be here to recognize our 911 telecommunicators and for your continued support throughout the years. So we will start out by honoring the saving, life-providing CPR instructions given during an emergency. Janet Frashire, Courtney McPherson, she had 2 saves within the last year. Stephanie Allen. Kelly Kennedy had 3 saves within the last year. Katia Blakely had 3 saves throughout the year. Brian Cole had 2 saves without the year. Skylar Hare. Yasha White, Stephanie Monroe, and Lindsay Stevens. Now we're going to honor the assisting telecommunicators that assisted with childbirth while they're on the phone. Christina Andrews delivered a baby girl. And Skylar Hare delivered a baby girl. So here again, I'd like to appreciate everything that y'all do for us, giving us the moment, the time to come in here and recognize our telecommunicators. A lot of stuff's done behind the telephone, but these folks aren't used to being in front of folks. They're always used to being behind the telephone, and we greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of the folks that was named as saving lives and childbirth. We're going to take just a second, so if you folks need to get back to work, we'll take a little time for y'all to leave if you need to, stay if you want to, but we appreciate it. While they're leaving, I will say that telecommunicators is the absolute lifeline and the backbone of any emergency operation. Without proper communications and dispatchers and getting the information right and getting it out there to the proper people, that speaks volumes of your emergency operation, because you can't do that without those folks. So thank you a lot to the ones that were here today and recognized, and thank you to our EMS for standing with our citizens. So absolutely amazing the number of calls that they get per year with emergency operation 911 calls. It's absolutely astonishing with our population. With I think they said 132,000 calls. Is that what I heard, or maybe it was more? Is that number accurate?
I think it was more. I think he said 170.
But our total population is right at 200,000. So when you look at the numbers, it's almost one call for every citizen that's here. But what an accomplishment that is, and I want to thank them, and my hat's off to them. I think we'll turn it over now to Ms. Griffin for public hearings. We've got a couple here.
Yes, sir. We do have 2 public hearings today. Our first one is for PREZ 22-00003 Martin rezoning request. And I would like to introduce our Planning and Development Director, Ms. Jessie Rue, for our staff background and recommendation.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. Our first rezoning request is a request from property owner Joseph Martin to rezone a 7.59 acre parcel from highway business to rural agriculture. This is on the south side of Wilmington Highway and Stumps Out. Currently, there's a single family home on this 7.59 acre lot. It has a septic tank and is serviced by Onwassa for water. Fire service is provided by South Onslow, and a downgrading of zoning like this does not generate any traffic concerns. Here you can see it is currently zoned highway business. It's kind of tucked in there back behind the highway. It is adjacent to property already zoned rural agriculture. Of course, highway business caters to commercial uses. Rural agriculture can be low density residential or agricultural uses. Medium density residential is the classification the land use plan map has this in. Our comprehensive plan does support this rezoning request. It is also considered reasonable and in the public interest because it is adjacent to property already zoned RA. The Planning Board reviewed this request and offered it a unanimous recommendation for approval on March 3rd, with no comments being presented against this rezoning request. I will say as well, the action that we're asking for this morning is for you to consider the adoption of the rezoning, but also consider adoption of the consistency statement as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rue. No one has signed up at this time for the public hearing, but I will now open the public hearing and ask if the applicant, if present, would like to come forward and make a statement.
Hello, my name is Joseph Martin. This is my wife, Jacqueline Martin. This is our property, and we would like to see about rezoning it to residential.
And this request is coming respectfully for your consideration. The main reason for our request is to align this with our use of the property. It is our primary residence, and also allow us potential to, for future to review perhaps a family subdivision in order to provide some of this land to our children.
Thank you so much. If you two would like to sit on the front row, they may want to ask you a couple of questions in just a moment. Thank you so much. I will make one call to the audience. If there's anyone that would like to speak about the Martin rezoning request. Seeing none, I will now close the public hearing, and at this time it's available for the Board of Commissioners to consider and discuss.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions for the applicant or planning? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion for the rezoning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, folks, for coming in. Appreciate it.
Our second rezoning request is PREZ 2022-0004, and Ms. Rue will provide the staff recommendation.
Thank you. This request is to go from residential 5 to highway business. Our applicant was Tribute Companies on behalf of the owners, Sneads Ferry Investments 2. This is on the south side of Old Folkestone Road, and the parcel is 16.66 acres. Currently, the property is undeveloped. It does have utilities, water through Onwassa, wastewater through Plurus available, fire service by Turkey Creek Volunteer, and again, we do not see any immediate traffic concerns in this area. Here you can see it's currently zoned R5. It is straddled between RA zoning and highway business zoning. R5 is our highest density residential district. It allows up to 20 units per acre. It allows multifamily construction as well as residential development with very small 5,000 square foot lots. Highway business caters to our commercial uses. It might be notable also the commercial development for apartments would also still be eligible in this district. The future land use map in the comprehensive plan has this as Community Growth Activity Center. This does support the rezoning request and can be considered reasonable in the public interest. Again, this property is adjacent to a number of properties already zoned highway business. The Planning Board did unanimously recommend adoption of this rezoning at their March 3rd meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rue. At this time, I will open the public hearing. No one has signed up to speak at this public hearing, but I will call for the applicant, if present, if you would like to come forward and make a statement.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commissioners. My name is Josh Mahaley from Mahaley Land Design. I represent Tribute Development. With this, they have a few of the properties around this site as well. We just feel like that by taking the site from R5 to HB, it gives us some opportunity to look at some commercial uses along Old Folkestone Road. As was stated by staff, the R5 and the HB districts are very similar as far as their density allocations, and we think that there's an opportunity to do a little more of a mixed-use development on this site, which we feel would be something good for the community, offer more mixed use, and fit the community growth activity center that the future land use plan currently allocates this site as. So I'm here for any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. If you want to stay nearby for just a moment in case they have questions. Is there anyone else, one call to the audience, that would like to speak specifically about the Tribute rezoning request? Seeing no one, I will close the hearing at this time, and it's now available for the Board of Commissioners to discuss.
Motion?
To approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion for the rezoning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir, for coming. Item 6, general items. I'll turn that over to Ben.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. This morning, for your consideration, we have a request for the Richlands Mobile Convenience Site to consider possibly reopening that site for one day a month. As you recall, at the December 13th, 2021 workshop, a presentation was made to the board on the performance of our mobile convenience sites. At that time, the board decided to close 4 of those sites at Richlands, Belgrade, Hubert, and 9 Mile, and to extend the days that the Silverdale site was open. And the proposal there would be to maintain Silverdale on Saturdays, each Saturday of the month from 12 to 6 to see how that site performs going forward. Following the board's action, staff put together a closure plan and began advertising to the public about the upcoming closing of the mobile convenience sites. And the county received a number of concerns similar to what you heard today, specifically about the Richland site. Most of the concerns that were voiced to staff were Those folks who live on the west side of Richlands would have an extensive distance to travel to either the Ramsey Road site or the main landfill site. And so the several requests were made most specifically to reconsider reopening this site for 1 day per month. If the board chose to do that, what staff would propose doing would be to take our tenant who's working in Silverdale to move them over to the Richland site 1 day per month and operate the Silverdale site 3 days per month. This is one of our lease sites, so if we were to retain the site and open it 1 day a month, we do have an annual lease of $1,500 plus the associated maintenance and staffing and other costs for maintaining the site. So that is the proposal today, or the request today that we've received and we're presenting to the board, is to consider reopening the Richland site for 1 day per month. And I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Motion to approve. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to ask a couple questions if I can. The, the numbers that I asked for, does that consist of the insurance? I didn't see any in the insurance list and listed there for that site. Are you talking about the historical cost or the proposed cost? Yeah, what it cost us a month for internet, just to ensure if something was to happen on that site.
Yes,
how much does it cost us?
I don't have those numbers, Commissioner Scott. That's something that I can certainly get and provide for you. I would assume we have a blanket policy that would cover all of our sites.
Well, still a cost that's going to be related to the site.
Yes, sir.
And right now is $9,258 a year, which equals to $771.50 a month, minus the insurance. I did find the porta potty lease that we've got, and I've got a question about the $136 a month that we're paying for the security light. That seemed like that was kind of high to me. But the stuff that's coming back, and I understand that we may have more, we may not, but it's going to be $657.25 to the revenue coming in to that site of what we've had in the past year. So I just wanted to ask those questions because that is part of the maintenance that that we've got to have. My other concern is the site. If we open this site back up, it's not going to be right to make it convenient for Richlands. We've already made it convenient for Silverdale, but there's a lot more the people in Silverdale, and we all understood that part of it. But the other sites that we've closed down, how are we going to be able to explain that to the citizens that we're doing that?
I can address a couple of your questions or concerns, Commissioner Scott. One of those with the electricity for the security light, that $136 is actually the annual cost. So that's for a 12-month period. So I believe that works out to $11 or $12 per month.
$7.33 a month.
Yes, sir. So I can say that as far as the usage of this individual site, whenever we made the presentation back in December looking at all the mobile convenience sites, the amount of revenue and expenses for each of our convenience sites didn't work out. All of the sites were losing money, but looking at the number of users at each site, the Richland site was actually the highest used of all of our mobile convenience sites. And what we found was a lot of those users are actually bringing in recyclables to the site. So as far as being able to generate revenue and make it profitable, we don't know what that looks like. Another concern that we had in the past was that the mobile convenience sites were open 1 day a week from 12 to 6. Richlands was Wednesdays from 12 to 6. And so moving that to one Saturday a month, it may change the usership, it may change the profitability of the site. We just don't know at this time.
How are we going to, if we were to approve this, how we get the word out to let the Richlands community know, hey, it is going to be open one day a month, and that this is the day, this is the time period, and how we inform them?
We would certainly have to do another campaign of social media outreach and just direct community outreach to try to let these folks know what's going on. Matter of fact, looking at the closure plan, this week was the week that each of these sites were supposed to close. So the Richland site would close on Wednesday unless the board decided to reverse that decision. So folks have been using the site up until this week. So we would just have to really reach out on social media and our other outlets to inform the community of the change.
Mr. Warren, I would suggest talking to the gentleman here this morning, or that I think they could probably really get the word out by the time they leave today that the convenience site was going to be opened up once a month. So I think they'll be more than happy to help you out with that. And you know, it's a convenience site. That's the term. It's convenience. So to help them out, coming here one day a month to see how this works out, I think it's a great idea to be able to offer that in one of the busier convenience sites.
I do think that when we workshopped this a few months ago, that we looked at drive times and how long it was going to take people to get to the sites if we closed certain ones. But I appreciate the staff's willingness to reconsider and listen to the citizens and what their needs are, and I think it's worth a shot. I mean, if it doesn't work out, then we'll have to revisit it again, but we can at least try.
I say the same thing. I commend you guys for looking at it and reconsidering. I wish my electric bill was $11 a month, that's for sure. But I think you put a good argument out, Mr. Humphrey, and you and I have talked about this before privately, and I think there's a good argument for it. And you know, there's a lot of elderly people there that, you know, they can't drive all the way across town to certain parts of these areas, and they need a site like that. And you know, if it's at minimal cost and it's not going to hurt us in any shape or form, then I'm all for it 100%. But I appreciate you guys reconsidering that and listening specifically to the citizens.
And I concur.
I think the insurance part of it, I believe it's blanket.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like it's not, that site not theirs, not going to change our insurance. It's all.
If I may, I can speak to that. We insure all of our county property through the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Risk Management Pool. We have property and liability insurance with them. We are seeing a premium increase this year, but the driving factors behind that are our coastal location. It's our regular buildings like this one, like the Consolidated Human Services, the detention center, the courthouse, that are at risk for wind shear and foul weather. The other thing that is driving the rate for our insurance is the increase in cyber attacks. So they actually insure us as well with the cybersecurity side of it, and that has driven up our rates because of the increasing attacks on different county governments and cities. So this individual property, I doubt they could even delineate how much of an impact it would have. That said, it is always a risk out at these convenience sites and at our landfill, and we have our safety person go out and make sure that we've got these sites in a condition that is safe for the public, because there is always danger where you have equipment and you have waste. So we are trying everything we can to make it safe. I'm not sure that we can delineate how much adding or subtracting this one leased property would make, but it is not usually, if that helps at all, Commissioner Scott, not usually the driving force. We also insure all of our cars and all of our vehicles and the shredder at the landfill and all that on that same policy. So it is kind of a big blanket.
I don't have a problem in doing the landfill. I just want to be able to do it because I know we're going to have some other citizens that's going to come back and say, well, I want us to do it too. You know, I just want to be fair to everybody in Onslow County. I can't pick and choose areas.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Okay, it was 61. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to item B.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. The item you have before you this morning is the annual county plan for the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, which is more commonly referenced as JCPC. Through a risk and needs assessment, the JCPC determined the following services are needed to reduce and/or prevent delinquency in Onslow County. The priorities for funding are restitution, community service, counseling and assessments to include substance abuse and sex offender evaluations and treatment, teen court, parent-family skill building, interpersonal skill building, community day, structured day reporting, and temporary shelter care services. On the agenda, it notates March 9th, 2022 as the JCPC approval date for the 2-year funding cycle. However, the correct date is actually March 9th, 2021. The JCPC approved a 2-year funding cycle for JCPC funding for fiscal year 21-22 and fiscal year 22-23. The JCPC has recommended allocation of the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, Division of Adult Correction, and Division of Juvenile Justice funds to the following programs: Juvenile Restitution Program, School Treatment Program, Onslow Teen Court, Sharp and Psychological Assessments, Temporary Shelter Services Program, Promoting Positive Actions Program, and STEPS Program. The JCPC further recommended funds be allocated for the administrative costs of the council for the upcoming fiscal year. The minimum local match for these funds is 30% and has been included in the proposed county budget for fiscal year 22-23. This proposal is contingent upon final budget adoption by the county. However, the plan must be submitted to the state prior to May 15th. It is respectfully requested approval of the JCPC annual county plan and authorize the chairman to sign any necessary documents on behalf of the county. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I just got one. Before we do that, I got one question. I'm sorry, Paul. I'd ask that I recuse myself from this vote because my wife sits on that board, and I don't want to cause any apparent conflict of interest.
Motion to approve.
I have a second to recuse.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye. Then a motion to approve.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion for item B signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
One of the
opposed?
things, Mr. Chair, is the JCPC, there's 3 of us sitting up here, sat on the board, and it's an outstanding organization, what they do for this community. It's just very, because I sat there for quite a while. Twice, I think, I was on the
You
board,
have.
and then I think Tim is on the board now, and Robin Knapp was on the board before. All 3 of us. Is an outstanding operation that you got going there.
Thank you.
The teen court does a great job working with the youth in that
Great
capacity.
diversionary program.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Item C, emergency management. Mr. Bryson will present that item.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. The item before you is an application that we're putting forth to State Emergency Management for their Emergency Management Capacity Building Grant. This is a little bit of different process than what we normally do. Typically, we bring before the Board of Commissioners when we're actually getting the approval for a grant. This is in the application process. There is one specific document in there which would require our Chairman of County Commissioners to actually have signed. So that's the reason we're bringing forth this to you. That document actually indicates that Onslow County owes no taxes. In the grant, then what we're applying for is for $259,000, and we're applying that money towards radio communications and cybersecurity. We're respectfully requesting the Board of support our application for the state grant funds and authorize the chairman to sign the document needed to complete the grant application process. Myself and the Deputy Director, Stacy Miles, are here to answer any questions you may have.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Bryson.
Thank you.
Item D, Ms. Hoover will be presenting that item.
Good morning, Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. The item that I have for you this morning is a NACHO grant. The National Association of County and City Health Officials put out a request for applications. The Health Department made an application to this RFA. Specifically, it was to improve operational readiness and would be used by smaller units or ones that have recently reformed to strengthen their membership. This requires no county match, and the grant award was for $5,000. Therefore, we are respectfully requesting that the Board of Commissioners consider the agreement with NACHO and the acceptance of the funding in the amount of $5,000, and if approved, authorize the county manager to execute the necessary budget amendment and the associated documents. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer those for you.
Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Hoover. We didn't have any items moved from the consent agenda to item 7, so we're now moved to item 8, Ms. Griffin's comments for our county manager.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I have a couple of items I wanted to mention. First of all, for any citizens who are watching who might be a little perplexed by our debate over the convenience sites, our normal convenience sites that are open, the permanent sites that are open more than one day a week, are still going to be open just the same as always. The ones that we talked about closing because they're not self-sufficient financially are the mobile sites. Those are the places that don't have a hut that you pay, and it's somebody who just opens the site half a day or one day a week. So those were the only ones that we were looking at shutting down. And now we will be doing the Richland site one Saturday a month and Silverdale one Saturday a month, and our other convenient sites like Swansboro and Midway, those will stay the same. Those are the same hours that they currently have. You can also bring recycling at no cost to any of those convenience sites or to the Meadowview landfill, and some people don't realize that. We don't charge any cost for bringing your recycling. Also, I wanted to make another announcement. We're very pleased. You saw earlier our telecommunicators being honored for their saves and their over-the-phone baby deliveries, which is pretty amazing. We also found out this morning that one of our own, Ellen Gellenbeck, was chosen as the Spotlight telecommunicator to be honored this week by her peers during Telecommunications Week. There's a huge social media platform that all of the telecommunicators and their training, all as a profession, are on. And Ellen's picture is going to be up there, and it talks about the fact that she's been with Onslow County for 26 years, that so much has changed, and yet she still comes in and does her job with a positive attitude every day, that her dedication in a field where people come and go all the time is commendable and greatly appreciated, and she has definitely saved many lives, and we appreciate what all of them are doing. A couple other general announcements for the public. It's spring, which is amazing, and the farmers market will open April 23rd. It's open on Saturdays from 8 in the morning until 12. So 8 to 12 on Saturdays beginning April 23rd. Also, if you are interested in COVID vaccines still, some people are not, some people are, but there are some more variants that seem to be coming our way. You may call for an appointment, or we also have boosters and first, second, whatever dose you need. We do have that at our health department. And I would also remind the public, one more announcement, Onslow County is hiring. We're a fabulous place to work. And we would always appreciate you going to our website and looking at our job postings. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
So Sharon, you're saying the second booster's available to us now? I see her shaking her head. Thank you.
Second booster, you said, right?
Yes. Yes, Chrissy will give you a shot. You show up, she'll give you the shot.
Chrissy, thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much. We'll move on now to the commissioner's comments. I think, let's see, last time we started on my left. This time we'll start on my right.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr. Chairman.
Bennett.
I just want to thank Mr. Houston, Mr. Hall, and Mr. Humphrey for your coming in today and your comments. I'm glad we're able to maybe do something to help a little bit. I want to thank our telecommunicators because they really do a great job. I did some of that way back in the past. And thank everyone for coming. Hope you have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. We'll move to my left, Commissioner Scott.
Okay, this past week, we've been kind of busy. The Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce has been extremely busy. Every night last week, my wife and I attended a function somewhere. And I want to tell you now, I want to thank her publicly for her support that she has done, because she's had a total of about 60 hours last week, putting up with me most of it. So, but we've had a good time. It was a lot of fun. The Piers dinner that we had on Friday night was a success. We need to support that endeavor, and I certainly thank them, and I think Tim's going to be talking about that a little bit. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to steal his thunder on that. The convenience sites, Richlands, don't take it personally. It was nothing against it, it's strictly a business deal. The enterprise fund is money that is handled by this board. We've got to be fair to everybody. The sites were losing money, that's why the decision was made. And now I'm going to support what my fellow commissioners has asked to do. That's the way we do business. I thank you for everything you do. I thank you to our staff, and I hope y'all have a good week. Thank you.
Commissioner Price?
I also attended a few events with the United Way kickoff celebration luncheon. Also, the Chamber of Commerce recognized the Man and Woman of the Year. So congratulations to Raquel Painter, who was named Woman of the Year, and to Jeb Brown, the Man of the Year, who was named by the Chamber. We also had budget meetings with Ms. Griffin. She brought up a couple of different plans for us to consider, noted some of the challenges that we have as a county in the areas of our emergency response, EMS, and including volunteer fire departments. We continue to have some challenges there, but we're working on that. Also, the schools laid out a $251 million 10-year plan for long-range construction, so that's going to pose a challenge for us as well. But we're mandated by the state of North Carolina to construct those schools. However, we can do things that are addressing those needs, definitely, but not necessarily the wants. And so that's what we're going to have to consider as we look down the road. But thank you for coming out this morning. Have a great day. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Knapp?
Mr. House and Mr. Hall and Mr. Humphrey, thank you for coming today and stating what you wanted to state. And thank you, Mr. Humphrey, for having that talk with me about this, I guess about 2 weeks ago. We had discussed this and talked about it. The convenience center, although our goal is to save money, though, that this may work out. We just don't know. But, there's enough of a concern and enough validity out there to reopen it, especially for the people in Richlands, and we'll see where it goes. You just never know. But I appreciate you coming out and doing what, saying what you had to say. I do really appreciate that. The telecommunicators, they're the people behind the scenes. You don't see them. They're not on the streets enforcing the laws, but they're behind the microphone, they're behind the computer, saving lives every day. That's what they do. They're taking these calls, and they're unsung heroes. If you see a telecommunicator, you need to thank them because, us in law enforcement consider them part of the family as well. They're frontline responders. They're the first ones, probably, to respond via telephone, and what they do is critical. What they do, as you can see here, it could be the meaning of life or death, and I appreciate every one of them. I'm impressed with the saves and the births, and it's pretty neat. I think they ought to be thanked when you see them and praised for what they do. So congratulations to them. So as everybody knows, we're going through our budget process. And I'm not going to, well, I am. So people always say I sound like a broken record, but let me explain to you the process so that people understand it's from a commissioner's standpoint. It's not an overnight thing. And I'll say it again, we start in January. Actually, we don't start in January. Our staff starts in January. They start doing all the research. They start looking at the budget. And believe me, when they sit down and talk, especially with the assistant county managers like Glenn Hargett, Sherry Slater, and Ben Warren, they're looking as department heads to find ways where we can get our budget, where we want it and possibly make cuts. And they don't like making cuts, but we're trying to save money. And we're trying to do it that benefits the government and it benefits you too, as well as the citizens of Onslow County. And I applaud them for what they're doing. I applaud them because their work is continuous every day. We've had budget meetings. We have a workshop this Wednesday to discuss some things. To hash out things, and before the budget gets approved, we go through all these trials and drafts and et cetera, and it finally comes up before us as commissioners to approve it. And the thing is that not one commissioner, and I've said this before, not one commissioner makes a decision on the budget. Not one commissioner makes a decision on anything in the government. It takes 4 of us. There's 7 of us, 4 is a majority. So anything that any decision is made on behalf of the commissioners, it has to come up before all of us so we can discuss it and vote on it like we should, okay? So keep that in mind. So when you ask people, you know, I need you to do this, can you get this through? Yeah, we can do that, but we have to discuss it with the other commissioners. And we have I would call it an open phone policy. We're always calling each other. We can attest to that, asking questions and bouncing ideas off of each other to make sure that we make the right decision. And there are times when we don't go with each other, we don't agree with each other, but we agree to disagree. And that's what makes this being a commissioner a unique opportunity. Even all of us, we're all Republicans up here, every one of us, and we still disagree. And that's the way it's supposed to be, because we're not all going to share the same viewpoints on things. But I just want to commend the commissioners for, you know, listening, because they've listened to me rant and rave. We've discussed things out. We've hashed things over and over again and tried to persuade each other. And I appreciate the professionalism that they've displayed during this entire process. So we still got our work cut out for the budget. I think we're making great progress. I wanted to thank Sharon personally. And I'll be honest with you, been through the budget process 5 times. This by far is the best time I've ever seen it. Seriously. It's the most thorough, it's the most precise, it's the most informative budget briefings that I've attended. Before in the past, it was kind of winging it sometimes, but that's another story. But it's very thorough, and I appreciate it, and I love the fact that Sherry and the rest of the county, assistant county manager are sitting in that process, partaking in that, and helping us shape our decisions. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for the wonderful job you guys do. Thank you for attending, and we'll see you at the next meeting at 6 o'clock, I guess, 2 weeks from now.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Buchanan.
Thank everybody for being here. Our employees are some of the best in the country. You heard me say that many, many times, and I know the health department was in front of us today, DSS, and then telecommunicators. And telecommunicators, there's some of us up here, I'm still reserve police officer with Jacksonville, and I can tell you they're the lifeline. They're my lifeline when I'm out on the streets, or I'm out there in that vehicle, or on a scene someplace, and you need some assistance or help. You can call and you get it real quick. And a lot of people don't thank them for that. But I want to thank them a lot because they've done a lot for me over my career. Not recently, because I do a lot more admin work than I did. I don't get on the streets anymore. I kind of stay away from that. I'm a little bit too old for it. But one of the key things is the telecommunicators right now, we worked hard. We just passed the AutoCAD, and Silence is sitting out there, and he'd tell us that the new AutoCAD is going to be really good because the city of Jacksonville and Onslow County, our EOC, we're able to talk to each other. So when something comes down, we got a robbery someplace, or we got a rape someplace, or we got a murder someplace, everybody gets the information at one time, and everybody's working on that scene. And that means a lot to us in law enforcement. And Jack and I can tell you that when we started out in police work, we used to have call boxes in downtown Jacksonville. A call box, a red box that was down on the street that we used to have to call in, and we had these big radios that were probably bigger than I've ever seen before in my life. But I want to thank all of our telecommunicators, our health department, our DSS. You do an outstanding job. And the manager and our staff, the budget, like Robin said, you have worked hard on that. This is my 18th budget that I've been involved with, and it is one of the better budgets I've ever seen. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Foster.
Our health department, social services, and our public safety. 3 major and vital pieces of local government were recognized today, and that's where that money goes. It saves lives, it takes care of kids, it ensures the health of our community. We appreciate everything that you do for Onslow County. And Ray, we appreciate you getting on the grill Friday morning, cooking up some sausage wraps for public safety folks on Friday. I know they appreciate it. Great job there, and it's getting close to lunchtime, so I'll quit talking. Ray's looking hungry.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. As our county manager said, or Commissioner Knapp, we got a workshop Wednesday the 6th at 9:30, and that's just part of that budget process. We got things we got to discuss and decide which way we're going to go on a few of those items, and the budget just can't be ready until we discuss every item that needs to be considered in a budget. So we will have that workshop Wednesday at 9:30. We did have a special meeting this morning. It was a closed session. It was authorized by statute with attorney-client, and we will be making an announcement about that closed session to be transparent about everything. So I don't know exactly when that'll come out in the media, but
Tomorrow.
we'll be announcing that, and I think everybody will be surprised and maybe happy that some things is happening on economic development. Sharon, I'm going to put you on the spot just for a second.
Oh, good.
You didn't know I was going to ask this, so this was not planned at all, but I know that a lot of people says we need to look at our spending, we need to make cuts. How many millions of dollars have you cut out of this budget so far, not counting Wednesday because we don't know? How many millions of dollars have you cut out of this coming budget?
Just under 10 million
So
requests.
with that being said, you can see the needs and the wants of our county citizens. As our population grows, the need for services grow, and the need for services grow because we need money to pay for those services. Just like those folks that was in here with EMS, we have to have those folks. We have to pay those folks, and it's not cheap. And labor now is getting extremely hard to find. Our volunteers is getting extremely hard to get people to volunteer in these volunteer fire departments. As for one thing, that saves us millions and millions of dollars. Norm Bryson can tell you that. Ray, you can tell us about volunteerism. And volunteers are the people are aging out now, and they're not volunteering like they used to. So we have to make compensation for that. We can't run a fire department with just a fire truck and one guy. We got to have people on that fire truck to respond, and that costs money. We can't run an ambulance with just an ambulance and nobody on the ambulance. We have to have people to respond. And that service is not getting smaller. That service demand is getting bigger. So the bigger the demand, the more it costs to do these things. And I spoke on a local radio show Friday morning about all the added stuff that we've done in the last year that just escalates the service needs. And we can't keep people from coming here. We're going to put a sign up at the county borders and say, okay, turn around, we don't need you here. No, we're not going to do that. We're absolutely not going to do that. So the more people we have, the more students we have, the more need for schools we have, and that is just the situation we have. $11 million, and we'll probably have more than that when we finish with our budget workshops and discussions and all that. But that's a tremendous amount of money to cut out of a budget. So she don't sit there and sit idle and say, okay, all you department heads come in and we're going to give you what you're asking for and what you need. Yeah. She finds out what we actually need, and then she finds out what some of them want, and then we go from there. And I'm sure, like every government agency, I'm sure there's things that we could look at, but the things that we can look at that we have control over is things like parks and recreation, the library, the museum, EMS, animal services, the county garage. All of those are discretionary spending, but we have to have them. We have to pay for the schools. That's mandatory. Anyway, with that being said, I appreciate the 911 operators, the dispatchers. No telling how many lives they've saved by being on the phone and giving proper direction and instructions on people. And when you pick up that phone and call 911 and they answer right away, the first thing they say is, what is your location? Because they get that first. If they don't get anything else, they find out where you're at and where they're needed at. So next time you see an EMS person or a dispatcher, thank them. And our sheriff's office, thank them for being there also for us. Like WC said one time when we were talking about cars, he said, we don't want these old cars on the road. He said, those motors, he said, I don't want to see no motor smoking. He said, I want to see the tire smoking when they come. So I think he had a good point there. But other than that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Folks, we're adjourned. Thank you for coming.